Welcome back to the flight deck and our continuing series on the BAE146. So in the second video of the series, we've now pushed back and we are ready for engine start. So let's get on board. Alright, so we are ready for engine start. Pushback has been done. We're going to go up to the overhead panel. We're going to set our selector to engine 4. We're going to hit the start button, hold it down for 1 second. All the lights should come on telling us the engine is starting and the igniters are going. We're then going to monitor the end 2 rotation, and at 10% we're going to introduce fuel. So let's get her going. Just engine ignition, and we're going to drop down a little bit so we can get at the levers here, and we're going to watch. So there's N1 rotation, N2 rotation is now gone through 10%. So we'll add in the fuel. And around 20% she's going to ignite. And we're going to monitor. So our exhaust temperatures are rising, N2's rising, N1's rising. We can see our pressures are up. Our temperatures will start to come up once the engine's stable. Fuel flow is reading. She'll peak about 450, 480, and then she'll start to drop back. Oh, there we go. 434. And we are now stable on engine number 4. So we're going to start the other 3, and when they're all done, we will join you again on the flight deck. So that's all 4 engines started. All 4 engines are now stable. So we're going to go up onto the overhead. We're going to take the engine start master off. The start selector will go to off. Engine anti-ice, it's not in icing conditions today, so the engine anti-ice will all come off. Generators 1 and 4 will go on. APU air can come on, and we'll turn both packs on. Get the air moving in the back. We're going to go up to the far overhead. We're going to turn the brake fans to auto. Engine 2 and 3 hydraulic pumps. So you can see hydraulic pumps are on 2 and 3, and the engine electrical generators are on 1 and 4. AC pump will go on. PTU pump will go on. That's our standbys in case of failure during takeoff. We're going to turn the power on for the TMS and put it back into takeoff mode. And then we're going to come down here to our transponder and set it to TARA. Make sure all our heaters are on. There we go. And we are good there. So we are almost ready to taxi. So we want to go to flap 18. So we'll go to flap 18. And while the flaps are moving, which very detailed animations are pretty cool, just going to show you the spoilers. So or the air brake actually is there, and when you go all the way back, you go ground spoiler mode, the ground spoilers will come up for landing, and this has to be manually done, but we use the air brake to control the speed on our descent. So we'll close it up there. So flaps are 18, reading 18. Let's just come up here to the taxi light. Here's our main lights. Down is taxi, up is landing, and center is off. Rudder trim is neutral. Aileron trim is neutral. We can set the elevator trim just coming over here, clicking on the center of gravity there, and that automatically sets it. Config test won't work because we've got a couple things that are still illuminated, but they'll come off shortly. Continuous ignition for the engines. If we have a lot of standing water on the runway or in heavy rains, For landing and takeoff, we turn the continuous ignition on, but right now we can leave it off. It is not required. So we're going to taxi out now. So we're going to release the brakes. A little bit of power to get her rolling. And she's going to roll pretty easily once she starts heading out. We can come back here to our charts and zoom in, and we can see where we're going. And we're going to taxi all the way down here to the end of runway 26. So as we're taxiing out, we can monitor our ground speed here. It's showing as our ground speed. We'll do a quick check of the master warning system. The only thing coming up is that the brake fans are not on the on position. They're in the auto position, which is fine. We are good there, and we are just making sure we don't overspeed. About a 20 knot taxi is about the limit that we want to go in this aircraft. Alright, we're ready for our before takeoff check, so we're going to let the cabin get ready, so hit the cabin call button.
Cabin crew, please take your seats for takeoff.
And they will confirm back when they are ready. And Roger will flick the sign over.
Cabin is secure.
There we go. So cabin is secure. Landing lights will come on, so we flick these all the way up. Strobe lights are going to come on. They are on the overhead right here, so we'll put those up in the on position. Flight controls, we can do a quick check. Full up, full down, full left, full right. Let's see if we can get a better position to see that. Full left, full right. And our rudder. TMS is set and verified. MWS, everything is set. Parking brake is on. Flight recorder will come off when we start to move, and we're okay with that one. We can check our brake temperatures if we're concerned. Turn that on, 15 degrees. That is fine. So we're going to head out for positioning. And we're going to center ourselves on the runway. And then apply the brakes. There's a few steps we'll go through before we take off, because things happen kind of quickly. And again, this is going by a checklist, and we've run the tutorial a couple times, but this is kind of how I fly it, and it's done me okay so far. Alright, so we're going to go parking brake on at the moment. So what we're going to do is when we're ready to go, we're going to move the engines up to 55% and 1. They're going to stabilize. At that point, we'll get call-outs from the first officer verifying everything is stable. We're then going to go to the N1 reference speed, and when we get close to the bug speed of 91, the system will help actually set it to 91. We're then going to release the brakes. When we get the rotate call, we're going to pitch up to about 15 degrees. Gear will come up. We're going to retract the flaps when we go through 1,500 feet. We're then going to put the autopilot on, and we're going to be in heading mode following the heading bug, and we're going to be manual speed until we get to where we want to be, and then we're going to go into indicated airspeed mode and hold it at about 220 knots when we finally get to that position. That'll be our climb speed until we reach 250 knots, and then we'll adjust it from there. And then there's some after takeoff checks that we will do. So if we are ready to go, I'm going to engage the brakes, release the parking brake, set my view so I can see all the instruments, because we're going to need the airspeed and everything like that. I'm going to start to push the engines. Oop. She doesn't want to hold, so I'm going to engage the parking brake. I find with the sim aircraft, they don't tend to hold on the brakes when you're putting power to them unless you have the parking brake on. So there's 51% coming up, or 55%.
TMS set to take off.
There we go. So TMS is set to take off. We're stable at about 55%. So we're going to push up to N1. 91%. That's fine. Brakes released. And away we go. So the system is going to monitor the engine power now.
Power set, N1 achieved. Speed alive, both sides. 80 knots cross-checked.
We're just holding her center line.
Rotate.
Rotate.
V2. Positive rate of climb, gear up.
Gear up. Holding our climb. So we're holding at that 144 or so. There's 1,500 feet, flaps up. And the nose is going to start to come down, and we'll let it come down because we want the speed to start to build. We're going to bring the power back to about 90. Don't want to overspeed the aircraft. About 87. Alright, so we will engage the autopilot. We're now in heading mode. And what we want to do is let the speed build up to about 220 knots. And then we're going to go on to IAS mode. Let it trim down. Let that speed build up. Keep the power about 90. And we'll go 210. It's close enough. And we'll go to indicated airspeed mode. And the aircraft is going to pitch to hold that speed. So now what we can do is our after takeoff checks. So we're going to come up to the overhead panel. Autopilot's engaged. We're going to turn on the engine air. We're going to turn off the APU air. We're going to come down to the management. We're going to sync it and master engine 1. So everything is going to sync off of whatever engine 1 is doing so that all the powers will be identical. So we're going to now go up to the overhead panel. Yep. So the AC pump is going to go off. The PTU pump is going to go off. We're going to go to the APU master, turn the APU off. We can ding the cabin now to release the cabin crew. And now we're monitoring for 10,000 feet. We've gone past our initial point on departure, which is fine. There's a lot to do in this airplane. So what we're now going to do is head towards the thing here. We're going to go over into LNAV mode. And we're going to turn towards the first beacon, which is 16 miles away. You can see we're picking it up over here as well from this frequency. And we're picking up here from the FMS. So we're going to keep climbing out at 220. Flaps are retracted, gear is retracted. Engine air is on, APU is off. And we are in climb power. We're holding at 88. You can see it's wanting us 88.7. That's fine, that's what it's linking to. 2,000 feet per minute climb. Everything is looking really good. 10,000 feet coming up. So we're passing through 10,000. The landing lights can come off. I am going to turn the where is it? That's the one. Turn the lights up there. Fasten seatbelt signs can come off. And we are good there. So now that we're through 10,000 feet, we want to climb at 250 knots. So if you bind your rudder or bind a button to the afterburner enable switch, it gives you a little thing that you can use within the airplane for resetting. So what we're going to do is I've bound it to a switch. I'm going to hit the afterburner enable, and that will allow me, while keeping it in heading mode, to push forward on the stick a little bit and hold it there and let the aircraft speed up. Try not to get too big a variance on pressure, but we're going to let the aircraft speed up to 250 knots. And at 250, I'm going to hit the switch again to put us back into the proper mode. And there we go. And we should stick at 250 knots now. We are heading out to intercept the next point on our nav. And we're going to hold 250 knots for the rest of the climb up to 24,000 feet. And again, we're just monitoring now. Everything is looking good. No warnings. We're coming in on our radial. Oh, we want LNAV. Let's make sure that's active. And there we're going to head off to the next VOR, which is the Southampton VOR at 103 miles. Now we've got the other one still tuned to the Guernsey VOR, so it's giving us a distance from it. So you can use this kind of to cross-check, but to let the aircraft do all the navigating if you want. This is kind of historic because later on they did insert FMSs, though on the later models, and retrofit, I guess, some of the early ones as well. So we're going to pick up again when we get up to our cruise. So there's 1,000 feet to go. She's going to level at 24, and what we want to do is hit our cruise speed. So cruise speed, if we're under 24,000 feet, is 280 knots. If we're above, it's Mach 6.8. So we're going to set for about 280, which is about this line here, and we'll just be over Mach 6.5. We'll be about 6.6, but we're going to go for about 280 knots. So there she is starting to level off. So we are going to watch the airspeed come up. And when we get to a 280 knots, we're going to bring the power back to about 80%. And then once we're at 80%, we will try to balance it so she holds in at that speed. So our speed's increasing because our airspeed's increasing. So we're going to start to bring the power back slightly. You can see they're all trying to match since we're in the sync mode. We're just going to hold about 88 as the speed slowly comes up. So we want to be on the second dash line from the 300. So we're about 270 right now. You can see the English coastline ahead out the window. So about 8.2 to 8.4 is roughly our cruise power setting. So there's 280, so we're going to bring the power back to about 8.4 and then we'll see what happens. And it's a little game of monitoring our power settings. There we go, and we'll 8.3 and we'll see how it moves. So I mentioned that the weather radar isn't working, but what you can do, let me get the right one here. There we go. It does have a map mode, and you can range it in and out. So this will show airports. So it'll give you an idea of where airports are. They'll start to populate, and that on it. Unfortunately, the terrain display is not working either. So, but it does give you a nice little airport indicator. I'm just going to ease the power back a little bit more. We're over 280, so we'll come back to about 82. There we go. And the others will try to match. Again, it's just a lot of fine-tuning as we try to get it in. So we've flown out from the Guernsey VOR. The next one is the Sam. That's the one we're Southampton that we're tracking into now. After that is the Honley, and we're actually going to use that. So we're going to put that one in. So the Honley VOR is 11365. It's not going to show up yet, but we are going to use it when we get there. And what we're going to put in here is the ILS frequency. So that's 111.75. There we go. And that we'll use for the ILS. So if we come over here and we go to Liverpool, and we'll pull up the approach plate again for that runway, the NDB ILS DME runway 27. So the plan is, you can see our speed sitting right around 280, which is great. We're going to be flying in from about this direction. We're going to fly up to the Liverpool NDB. We're then going to head out on 058, loop around, and we're going to come in. So we've tuned in 266 into our nav display, or VNav for nav1, which we'll use once we switch over into that mode. 111.75 is the ILS frequency. The other thing we're going to need, if we come down here, is our decision height. So our decision height is 278 feet, or say 280 feet. So if we come down here, this is our radio altimeter and decision height. So it's a radio altimeter, not a barrel, so it's going to be 200 feet. And that will give us our minimums call out, as you can see right there. And for now, we can go back over to our map. And there we are, approaching the coast. So that's going to do it for this one. We're in cruise mode. We'll pick up again in the next video. We'll do our descent, approach, landing, and shutdown for that one. So thank you again very much for watching. Hope to see you on the next one. Bye for now.